Should I do the something in my eye gimmick again? I don't know if that got any views. Anyway, I'm Ryan, and today we're going to talk about Black White Blink in Modern. This deck's really cool and really powerful. Today we're going to talk about card choices in the deck, the overall strategy of the deck, and how to play the deck. Let's jump into it. So this is Black White Blink in Modern. What this deck is effectively attempting to do is capitalize on enter the battlefield effects of cards like Witch Enchanter, Boggart Trawler, Overlord of the Bailmark, Solitude, and Orcish Bowmasters for that matter, by blinking them with cards like Ephemerate, Felia, and Flicker Wisp over and over and over to generate a large amount of value, while at the same time triggering Ketramos a whole bunch every time those things are blinked, or something's exiled with Solitude, or something's exiled with Relic, or what, or something's exiled with Emperor of Bones, or whatever. So this is one of those decks that has an engine, and then once you get the engine going, the deck is unbeatable. The problem is actually getting the engine going. So let's talk about each individual card. As far as the lands go, it's pretty straightforward. Black-white lands, a lot of fetch lands, because we want to get cards in our graveyard to exile with Relic, so we trigger Ketramos. The only weird thing going on with our lands, we're playing a single Sacred Foundry. This to activate some abilities off of things we grab with Emperor of Bones, but also allows us to Prismatic Ending for 3. It's pretty free, just over the third planes. As far as the 1-drops go, we're playing 3 Ephemerate, so 1-mana instant, exile target creature you control, then return to the battlefield under its owner's control, so it's one of those blink effects, so you get another enter the battlefield effect. And it has Rebound, which means if you cast it from your hand, you get to exile it as it resolves. In the beginning of your next upkeep, you may cast this card from exile without paying its mana cost. So you get to do it twice, which can be pretty disgusting. You can also use Ephemerate to avoid removal spells, because you can blink them out of the way and whatnot. Fatal Push, we're playing 3 of best removal in the format. It is a 1-mana instant, destroy target creature if it has mana value 2 or less, and it has Revolt to destroy that creature if the mana value has it's 4 or less if a permanent left the battlefield under your control this turn. And it's very easy to get that Revolt trigger from all the blink effects and fetch lands. We're playing 4 Thoughtseizes. Thoughtseizes is a 1-mana sorcery. Target player reveals their hand. You may choose a non-land card from it. That player discards a card. You lose 2 life. Being able to tear apart your opponent's hands are really important, especially as we are working towards getting our engine going. Playing 3 Relic of Progenitus. Relic is a 1-mana artifact. We can tap it to have target player exile a card from the graveyard. And we can pay 1 mana and exile the artifact to exile all graveyards and draw a card. Cool thing with Relic is it means if we have it on the battlefield and we have Ketramos on the battlefield, we get to draw an extra card every single turn, because we get to tap it, exile a card from a graveyard, trigger Ketramos, draw a card. It's also incidental main deck graveyard hate, and we can cash it in at any point for 1 mana to draw a card. Which, by the way, when you do that, you end up drawing 2 additional cards, because exiling the artifact is a part of paying the cost, trigger Ketramos, and then graveyards are exiled, trigger Ketramos, and then you draw a card off Relic of Progenitus, so I guess it's 3 cards. We're playing 4 Felia, Exuberant Shepherd, excuse me. It's a 2-mana 2/2 with Flash. It's the goodest doggo. And whenever Felia attacks, exile to 1 other target non-land permanent. At the beginning of the next end step, return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. If it entered under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Felia. So Felia does these awesome things and lets us blink things every single turn. We're also able to surprise our opponents by flashing it on an end step, untapping, attacking, blinking something. You know, all those things that I already mentioned. Emperor of Bones is a 2-mana 2/2. At the beginning of combat in your turn, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard. You can pay 2 mana to adapt 2, which means putting 2 +1/+1 counters on it. And whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put on this creature, put a creature card exiled with it. This creature onto the battlefield under your control, the finality counter on it against haste, sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. So Emperor of Bones means that every single turn when we enter combat, if we have Ketramos on the battlefield, we exile a card from a graveyard, trigger Ketramos, draw a card. And then if we have something juicy exiled with Emperor of Bones, we can pay 2 mana to adapt it, put it on the battlefield, get that end of the battlefield effect, and attack with it. Very often with Emperor of Bones, we're targeting our own stuff in the graveyard, like Solitude and Overlord of the Bailmark are some of the best ones, because we get so many triggers off of them. We're playing an Orcish Bowmaster. Orcish Bowmaster is a 2-mana 1/1 with Flash. When this creature enters And whenever an opponent draws a card except the first one they draw on each of their draw steps, this creature deals 1 damage to any target, then amass Orcs 1. So you create an Orc army, put a +1/+1 counter on it. If you already have an Orc army, you put an additional +1/+1 counter on it. Very good against decks that are looking to draw cards and decks with a bunch of weenies. We're playing 3 Flicker Wisp. Is a 3-mana 3/1 with flying. When this creature enters, exile another target permanent. Return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. So this is just another blinky thing. It applies pressure in the air, allows us to trigger Ketchermos, and gets more end of the battlefield effects. Playing a Boggart Trawler as a land, which is a black land that enters tapped unless you pay 3 life. But it's also 3-mana 3/1. When it enters, exile target player's graveyard. Just free graveyard hate, gets a Ketchermos trigger, is a threat, is a blocker, and is a land if we need it. Been mentioning Ketchermos a lot, but Ketchermos is a 3-mana 4/4 with Menace, Lifelink, and Indestructible. Ketchermos can't attack or block unless there are 7 or more cards in exile, and whenever 1 or more cards are put into exile from the graveyards and our battlefield during your turn, you draw a card and lose a life. So this allows us to draw cards a lot because a lot of our deck is based around Ketchermos. And then we can pretty easily get things into exile between Solitude, Relic, Emperor Bones, or something's in exile with Flicker Wisp or whatever. It's pretty easy to get 7 cards in exile. And then we have a Menace, Lifelink, Indestructible attacker that is drawing cards every turn. This card is nuts. Played 4 Witch Enchanter as lands. It's similar to Boggart Trawler where it enters tapped unless you pay 3 life. But when it enters, destroy target artifact or enchantment an opponent controls. Very good incidental artifact and enchantment hate. It's recursive. You can even bounce the land with Flicker Wisp and it comes back as the creature, which is really disgusting. Played for Solitude. Solitude is a 5-mana 3/2 with flash and lifelink. When this creature enters, exile up to 1 other target creature. That creature's controller gains life equal to its power, and we can evoke it, exile a white card from our hand, which means when it enters, you sacrifice it. It's just an alternate cost. So you can cast it for 0 mana as well. Cool part about Solitude, triggers Ketchermos even if we're exiling one of our opponent's creatures. You can bounce it with all of this other stuff. Puts a card into exile if you evoke it, which makes Ketchermos closer to attacking. It's all really very, very cool. And we're playing 4 Overlord of the Baelmerk, which is a 5-mana 5/5 with impending 5, so you can cast it for 2 mana as an enchantment. And whenever this permanent enters or attacks, mill 4 cards, then you may return a non-avatar creature card or planeswalker from your graveyard to your hand. This allows you to use your graveyard sort of as a toolbox, because whenever it enters or attacks, we get to grab something from our graveyard, which is very good alongside Felia or Flicker Wisp, because you can, if you blink the enchantment version of Overlord of Baelmerk, it comes back as a creature as early as turn 3. So if you, the crazy nut hand is impending this on turn 2, it's an enchantment, you get a card from your graveyard, pass, 3rd land, your opponent's end step, Felia, untap, attack, blink Overlord, and now you have a 5/5 that you get another end of the battlefield effect, and now they have to answer it or you start attacking and dealing a ton of pressure and also using your graveyard as a toolbox. And then we're playing Prismatic Ending as additional removal, allowing us to, with our mana base, exile things that are costing 3 or less. It's very powerful and can kind of be a catch-all removal, getting rid of their Ketchermos, whatever. As far as the sideboard goes, we're playing 2 Draenith Magistrate. Your opponents can't cast spells from anywhere other than their hands. Very good against like impulse effects and stuff, like Ruby Storm. Stony Silence. 2-mana enchantment activated abilities or artifacts can't be activated. This is like our Belcher and Affinity Hate. White Orchid Phantom is a 2-mana 2/2 with flying and first strike. When this creature enters, destroy up to 1 target non-basic land. Its controller may search a library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. So this is very good against the decks that you need to be attacking their mana base, either because they don't have a lot of basic lands, like with Belcher, or against decks that have lands that produce 2 mana, like with Eldrazi Ramp or Amulet Titan. Aven Interrupter, also very good against impulse effects, but also really good against decks that like are combo-y decks like Titan or Belcher, impulse effects out of Ruby Storm or whatever. It's a 3-mana 2/2 with flash flying. When this creature enters, exile target spell, it becomes plotted, which means they can cast for free at a later turn. However, spells your opponent casts from graveyards or from exile cost 2 more to cast. We're playing 1 Elesh Norn. It's a 5-mana 4/7 with vigilance. If a permanent entering causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. Nuts in our deck. We have so many end of the battlefield effects. And permanents entering don't cause abilities of permanents your opponent control to trigger. So we side this in against decks that have enter the battlefield effects being a central part of their strategy. And then it also amplifies our deck. We're playing 3 Wrath of the Skies. It is X and 2 white. Sorcery, you get X energy. And then you may pay any amount of energy, destroy each artifact, creature, and enchantment with value less than or equal to the amount of energy paid this way. It's good against decks that have a lot of artifacts or enchantments, or these creature decks that are trying to go wide. And then we're playing 2 Vindicate, 3 mana, destroy target permanent. Mostly playing this as White Orchid Phantom, 5 and 6, being able to take out those problematic lands. There you have Black-White Blink in Modern. If you like this video, please be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on social medias. Links are above me and in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.